How to double your salary? Part 19, Chapter 5. How to manage your boss. Before we start the Chapter 5, let us just look at the summary of the Chapter 4, that is career ladder versus career building. So, the summary is we have to learn the career tree, how a career is made in a company. I call it a career ladder. So, for public sector companies it is different, for multinational companies it is different. Different countries will have different career structures. Different industries like IT sectors and other things, they normally have flat organization structures. So, that is one thing which you have to understand, because once we know the thing, so the career ladder, if you understand, then we can easily plan our career. In some of the companies like Amazon, Facebook and all, they grew very fast. Within 10 years they reached market capitals comparable to the blue chip companies. So the automatically the employees progress very fast. There are other companies where you take a long time before you stabilize your career. The other one we're talking about career building, like a brick, one by one you can build your career. So if the opportunities in the career ladder are not up to the mark or up to your liking, then you can quit the company and then go for another company where your career progress can be faster. I did both. I took care of the career ladder as well as career building. And industries also have changed from petroleum refining to petrochemicals, and again back to refineries. Also from technical services and operations to project. So there are several things which you also can do, but you keep this in mind. Career ladder is what is available in the existing company. If the company grows, you grow along with the company. Career build-up is like you can choose the way you want. Both has got its risks and opportunities. If the company doesn't grow well, then your career growth will stop. In career building, every time you change the job, there is a risk of losing the job also. Now, coming to the chapter 5, how to manage your boss. The quote says, bosses can be stumbling blocks or stepping stones to success, based on how we look at it. It is a quote from my forthcoming book, ABCD of Management. Who doesn't have boss? Two things are certain in life, taxes and death, said one past president of United States. I will add one more to the list. It is the boss. No matter how big you are, no matter how high you may rise in an organization, you will have a boss to guide you or give you a caution, that just to tell you that you are wrong or you may have to improve. That boss can be official or unofficial. Boss can be she or he, a wife or a spouse, husband, anybody, or opposition party, or voter, even in media, press. And the case of the past president Trump, it is the media who is really against them. In a democracy, people are the boss. In monarchy, king is the boss. But whoever may be the boss, there will be somebody above him. In democracy, though the people are the boss, and whom they elect as a leader, till he is the leader, he will have upper hand. And if he is not liked by the voters, he may have to come down. There is a famous dialogue in Bollywood picture, Jodha Akbar. The queen Jodha tells her husband the Akbar, the Great. It's easy to rule a country, but it's not easy to rule the hearts of people. That's what she says, and it's a very profound dialogue, which impressed me. So is with in the families also. Her husband may feel he can boss over wife, but ultimately he has to understand that winning the heart of his spouse is very important. Those who consider boss as antagonist or struggle in their life. Those who take boss as their ally will sail through the tasks easily. You can call it psychophancy or you call it teamwork. It is a fact of life. Those bosses where boss always is right also perished very fast. Those who defy boss or who thought to lead the mutiny were also eliminated. So it had to be taken with a pinch of salt that how to deal with the boss. Let us see in this chapter how do we deal with the boss. Raj, you're fired. That's what my boss, Mr. Campbell, said in the middle of a meeting. I said, thank you, sir. Then it was his turn to wonder, hey, do you have a job in your hand? As I always was, advising my staff as well as anybody, that I used to keep one resignation letter on the top of my shirt pocket and one offer letter in the my pants or trousers. So what is the advantage? You will not be intimidated by anybody that you have to continue in a job which you don't like. That is the where when you have a resignation letter and you are ready at your shirt top pocket. And offer letter always, if you have in your trousers, that's what it gives you the confidence to deliver your resignation letter. Otherwise, you have to, keep working there and looking for opportunities. The next day, after Campbell told me, I walked into an engineering office, which is, in the Middle East. They have their offices in Far East, Mediterranean and Russia also. And the president of that company asked me, Raj, how come you are here? I said, I just wanted to see how you are. Then at the end of 1 hour, I have joined as a refinery specialist with them, and from there I was looking after the refineries contracts in Mediterranean and as well as Russia. So what I want to tell you is that, so every time you may not have this kind of offers, but then having contacts and the opportunities, you should always keep them open. During the time when I was in the engineering company, I went to Kyrgyzstan, which is a state in former USSR, and I had an opportunity to meet their oil minister as I was advisor. Then it was in Greece. So travel itself became education for me. That is the place where I learned, how to buy the refineries. And during my tenure in Sharjah refinery, we have negotiated to purchase 3 running old refineries in Canada, and my project was to integrate all the 3 of them. So from an employee, I just had a glimpse of how to be an employer. In my career spanning of 3.5 decades, I had changed a dozen of jobs and my quest to double my salary. I had to deal with as many bosses and sometimes more number. Now here we'll deal with each of them in a different way. Let's look at the definition of boss. When I'm late, I'm irresponsible. When he is late, he has some important work. When I finish the work late, I'm tardy. When he is late, he is thorough in his details. When I lose temper, I'm not polite with my staff. If he does, he is cautioning us and sparing us from sacking by just shouting. So you guess right, he is the boss. He's always right. Always remember, there is a cartoon which I published in the book. Of course, in Audible you cannot see the cartoons, but I will say that the boss shouting at the subordinate, and the staff asks, why is he shouting? And the boss answers, if you don't want me to shout, I won't, but it may cost your job. So that sums up the attitude of boss. Sometimes when the boss is shouting, probably he is angry, but then instead of shouting, he can also fire you. If you remember that, then you will never fight with the boss, and you always obey your boss. So there are certain tips I have given here. One is obey your boss. The other one is never fight with the boss. The third one is negotiate with your boss. Then saving of boss job is, of course, very unusual way, because boss saves your job and normally you don't save his job. And get him a better job, and there's so many other things are there. Let's go one by one and see how they are, each boss I have dealt differently. And let's first one, always obey your boss. Some bosses will depend on their staff to get update on the sub jobs. It is not uncommon. As we get old, we tend to be lethargic, and we get updated on some areas of development. So that is the time when it comes to, you want to learn, and the bosses always want to get the status. And many of the bosses, they think that if you know the status of the job, it's as good as they know the job. So to counter that, what I want to say is never educate the boss. In their words, explain him the status, not the strategy or technique, how you completed the job. It's not secret, but at the same time, it's a signature. Like, each one has got a way of doing the jobs and completing the jobs. Some got a finishing better, some will do planning better, some will do the initiating the jobs and forming teams better. So there are several ways of doing it. So I had a good advice from one of our bosses. He told me that not to mark all mails to all the people. So I asked him why. He says, not all people will be interested in knowing what you have done, how you have done. The second thing is, not all people need to know. So this is something which I learned a later date. Earlier I used to, keep all my information to all the people. Some use it, some misuse it. Some may just claim as if it is their achievement. So it's not necessarily you keep telling what you have done. Of course, your boss, you have to keep him informed. At this point, I recall one advice given by Chanakya, who is supposed to be the strategist minister under the mighty Magadha kingdom, who defeated the great Alexander. So what he says is that any information or communication is there, he measured it by 3. Is it necessary to communicate? Second thing is it useful to the person whom you are informing? Okay, and I just added one more in my experience. I said, does it improve your career? That is the things which you always have to think about it. And the second one, before we complete this 19th episode, we will discuss it. Never fight with your boss. Sometimes your boss may be less qualified. is maybe less knowledgeable, less competent. All are normal, and you may never want to share your credit with your boss, but doesn't mean that you have to fight with your boss. There are several ways to deal with the boss if he is troubling you, but never fight with him. Non-cooperation path is some people follow, but I don't support that because that will affect your career also. You have to work hard irrespective of your relation with your boss. Okay, fighting with boss is injurious to your career progress. So there was one of my boss who never used to invite me to crucial meetings and used to take credit for all the successes. I never shunned work nor delayed the job, but delayed the news of completion of work. Sometimes he used to get firing for not completing the job, but then he has to be blamed for it because he never shared his credit with the staff, so he cannot blame them if the job is delayed. So that's how he is cornered. On the contrary, if the boss is pally with you and he is giving all the credit to you, you can sometimes share with him and then ask him what exactly you can do to improve your career or anything. So one of our bosses in Saudi company was an American, and he was he used to empower me and then give me a lot of work as well as credit for the jobs. So one day I asked him, what is the thing which I need to improve? Then he said, you are accepting lower salaries and accepting menial jobs. That is the weakness, and then you got to improve on that, he said. So, and sometimes humor will save the day, and then when you are not fighting with the boss, you always can make a humor. I'll give one a small incident and then close this part 19. So there was a time when in the manufacturing some problem was there, and then our boss wanted coverage for the night time, and many of my staff members were not interested in coming in the night. So I wanted to avoid the night coverage. At the same time, I can't say no to my boss because if you don't give the coverage, then we will not doing a job. So I went and negotiated with him, and then I said, the operation head, I asked him, we can give a coverage in the morning and evening shifts, but not in the night. Then he asked us why. He says, if we do all the job and all the time we are giving instructions, so that will affect your production. So at least I want to leave that night shift for you to maximize the production. So the operation guy liked it. He said, yeah, what you are accepting is that your presence would hamper the production. And of course he took it in a lighter vein, and he agreed. So that's how we avoided the night shift. So what is important is sometimes you should negotiate with the boss and how to go about it. Okay. The next chapters are the 20 part 20 will discuss about on one occasion how I saved my boss's job, and how to get into a little bit of perks and which would directly may not increase the salaries, but that will help you in negotiation. Okay, here we'll close the part 19.